Hey everyone, Shannon Scott back from Central Illinois here at the Grave Talks, the ongoing journey to Springfield. We're stopping by in a favorable historic town called Decatur, Illinois. And we're here at Greenwood Cemetery, which dates 1857. And I would guess a few hundred acres. They don't really have a formal website, but they've got just beautiful monuments out here, very rolling hills. I don't know if I would go so far as to say, as I sometimes quoted as saying it was built on top of Indian mounds, but hey, I'm always up for that intrigue. But the gates of the eternal paradise, these are very ornate. I would guess probably just black cast iron when they were created, and they look relatively mid-19th century. So I would say right after the Civil War. But these details, insane. And I'm going to just kind of rattle off a few. We've got daisies. We've got cannonball pillars with the eternal flame. We've got the sun pattern. Sometimes an egg pattern meets sun pattern. What I love about these have lots of hourglasses, and the Tempus Fugit with some vining action there, with some heart shapes. So always about time flying. Boy, they spared no expense on these. You've got porthole windows here, kind of in a cyclical or cyclicalness. I can say that word. Of course, the classic eternal Greek key pattern to show off the greater eternalism. You've got your vining, leafing fleur-de-lis, but I found that they did really favor the Tempus Fugit hourglass stuff in the cemetery. You find it a lot. I love the sort of dangling, almost birds in flight. I don't know if this is like a cockle bell or what it is, but it obviously has a bell idea with the little pendulum in there. So, for whom the bell tolls, but also kind of a celebratory church steeple idea. Big hourglasses here on the front. Not Tempus Fugit with the wings, right? So not a real true time flies, but I'll show you one of those in a moment. And get way up there, it's kind of bright, but we've got that classic Greek urn with the eternal flame, more of the sun or egg pattern. Obviously the crown and the cross there, kind of denoting winning Valhalla or the gates of the eternal. And that's the thing, these were really designed to be resemblant in an artistic way, the gates of the eternal. A lot more beauty here than typical fierceness, which you sometimes find. I love the braiding rope here, which is kind of about a tether. It's a little bit of a tassel too, right? But let's go down the hill here. And they're getting ready for, as you can see, 4th of July. We'll talk about that as we get a little further up. But I did want to show everyone this kind of mound burial here, which is really, I always like these. I don't know if it's like the Hobbit house thing, just that inner earth access, or living like a groundhog, which, Illinois, it's pretty much a house pet. Driving through Decatur, middle of the day, just groundhogs like casually hanging out. Like, yeah, I live here too, under their house. This is really unique. I don't know, based on its design, I don't think it ever had access through here. My guess would be a staircase behind it in the mound itself. That would make sense, or in the side perhaps, but don't know that formally. Again, just kind of hitting these cemeteries on the road trip today. They have a Tempus Fugit right here in the kind of rose window. Very four-leaf clover, I might add. Interesting. I can't remember the name of that. It's like the anchor, the ancient anchor weight, which is about, I think, an anchoring of a faith. But some of the architects savvy out there may know better, but that's kind of what it reminds me of, other than just like a lifesaver, which I could go for right now. It's so hot. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and assume it's hard to see up there at right below the cross, around the braiding where it kind of arches there a little bit. There's a baby obelisk being birthed out of a kind of a acanthus leaf steeple design, and it is a steeple, obviously, but I think between the Tempus Fugit and that, it's probably a Masonic, person or a Freemason of some type. You often hear about the Tempus Fugit being an emblem of one of the Grand Master degrees, one of the higher degrees of Freemasonry, but, that always sets off its own debate. Anyway, oh gosh, that's kind of a neat perspective from the back there. I love the way the moss has grown up. The Miller Brothers Vault. So we'll presume they were industrialists of some kind. You can see the office kind of caretaker apartment over there, which is pretty cool. So somebody has lived here or is living on site. I find some of these cemeteries of any kind in America, it's like, and if you're a taphophile, you're really into them. You kind of know that some of those old Victorian cemeteries are in the bad neighborhoods, that went bad. They were good neighborhoods that went bad. Not always. Sometimes they were poor neighborhoods on the outside of town already for mill workers or, whomever. But Decatur has a lot of industry. But what I've noticed is that in some respects, the cemetery is almost more manicured than the town. So you can kind of see how the economics have really ravaged this town. But someone here really caring about Greenwood Cemetery. So whoever you are, folks, good job. And, usual suspects, a lot of Masonic emblems out here. Everybody wants to be buried inside of the gates of paradise is my point. So, you're banking big shots and manufacturers and politicians and everybody else of the elite class. But we won't complain for some of the art that they put up. This is a transcendent, beautiful figure. She's very motion, flight, climbing, ascending. Love the way the fabric is so sheer, crepish, falling against her form. And, this was racy for the period because, guys, she has very happy nipples. I'm just saying that out loud. She is excited to go to heaven. Make of that what you want. But, no, that is something different in a cemetery. You usually don't get that much nipple action. But, hey, she's gorgeous. We're not going to complain a bit. But, I think sometimes we're just a little too frozen in those discussions when there's really a lot of aesthetical, spiritual learning connected to all of our body, mind, spirit paradigm and our happiness and all that stuff with the body. But anyway, we're just here to admire the statue, and that's a beautiful cloud backdrop. Boy, this is really elegant. So the grave of Aquila Toland, his wife, looks like, the only child, Bessie Toland, of Aquila and Lydia Toland. He was the first, sounds like London, Ohio, or Decaturan. No, he was born in London, Ohio, see, July 1, 1840. First Decaturan to enlist in the Civil War, and was in a number of battles, Vicksburg, and came back and lived a fruitful life, it looks like. Died in 1878. But anyway, Toland had a penchant for beautiful women, and sometimes those models are, real people modeling. Sometimes the wife. And, wow, just, footnote for later, but I wouldn't mind having a statue like that at my grave. I think you know what I'm saying. All right, so look at W.F. Busher. Very Masonic, especially with that sphere up there. It is kind of like Romanesque architecture, but I'd go ahead and argue that this is very Masonic heavy. I love these lions because sometimes you really get the two lions that are the same. They're asimilar. Here we've got one in very evident mourning and is sad, although maybe sleepy from being a guardian. But yeah, the Guardians of Paradise, that's one meaning of the lions, and of course the courage and the fierceness and the boldness and all that too, right? But look at that sleepy face, and what a sweetheart. They both look pretty sweet actually for lions guarding the gates, but I love that. You deserve a nap, buddy. It's hot out here. One grave that has been elusive, but will probably be in the next video, is that of an actor of silent film that has a Savannah connection named Jacqueline Logan. She also was in The Speakies, and I'm going to try to find her next. So thanks for watching. We're here from Greenwood Cemetery in Decatur, Illinois. I hope I didn't say Decatur, Georgia. Sorry if I did. But Decatur, Illinois. By the way, I do want to mention this. All the branches of the military represented here for July 4th. But this is the first Space Force flag I've ever seen. Sorry, I can't resist a space ghost voice on that. But how about that? The United States Space Force. Wow, I think one day that'll be like the way we really kind of admire the pilots of, I guess, the lower Earth's atmosphere, and sometimes upper. We'll have all this knowledge of and hero worship of Space Force guys. But that's the first Space Force flag I've ever seen in a cemetery, ladies and gentlemen. It's so impressive. But yeah, we're getting ready for the 4th of July here in Decatur, Illinois. Anyway, let's see if we can find Jacqueline Logan. Thanks for watching.